Jai Shri Prabhupada. Jai Shri Chaitanya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada, fully aware of the necessity for a society for Krishna consciousness, how important association is for those desiring to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, made arrangements for an international society. No one said it was going to be easy. It is the middle of Kali Yuga, but such a society does exist, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And those that come into contact with devotees and disciples of His Divine Grace can gain access to transcendental knowledge. How important is transcendental knowledge? Well, without knowledge, there's fear. Fear comes from not having knowledge. Because like for instance, you're in a dark room, and it can be very fearful because you don't know who else is in the dark room. Maybe someone dangerous is in there, and you might bump into something. I know sometimes if I have to get up in the middle of the night, and I have a little night light, but the bulb burned out. I need to get a new bulb. So now it's very dark at night, and if I have to go somewhere in the middle of the night, then it's like I have to feel my way around, and it's dangerous because there are things to bump into, like that. So in the dark, lack of knowledge is compared to darkness, and transcendental knowledge is compared to the sunlight. So thousands of years ago, great sages assembled in a place called Naimisharanya. It's a forest. It's in India. It's a forest. And they assembled there because they saw all the indications of difficult times ahead, which is described in the scriptures as the Kali Yuga, or the age of quarrel and dissent, an age of darkness, like a winter time in terms of cosmic seasons. It's like a winter time. A very difficult time for everyone. So they assembled there, and they were asking questions. The primary question was, where is knowledge? Where are religious principles? Where is the path of transcendence to be found? Where is the information to be found? They can guide us through this difficult age. Where is that knowledge? And the answer was, it's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is giving light for guiding society through the most difficult time of the Kali Yuga. And this is a summary study. There are 12 cantos on this planet. There are more cantos on higher planets, but we have 12 cantos. And this is a summary study of the 10th canto, which deals specifically with the qualities and the nature and the personality and the associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His personality, how he interacts in intimate loving exchanges as a person. His personal associates, who he is as a person. And it's a summary study, and Prabhupada has presented it in such a way that anyone can take advantage, because he explains so many things along with descriptions of the pastimes about the nature of material conditioning, the temporariness of this world, the threefold miseries. It's all interwound in his purports and explanations to help the reader access the transcendental nature. So this is a pastime, and it's entitled The Story of the Syamantaka Jewel. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. There was a king of the name Satyajit within the jurisdiction of Dwarkadam. This is 5,000 years ago. These are accounts of activities when Krishna actually manifested personally on the planet and displayed his pastimes, his activities. So that at that time, there was a king of the name Satyajit within the jurisdiction of Dwarkadam. Dwarka is Krishna's he was acting as a king at this time in Dwarka. And this was his kingdom, Dwarkadam. So there was a king there. He was a great devotee of the sun god who awarded him the benediction of a jewel known as Syamantaka. Asking for things like this from the demigods, you can get someone into a lot of trouble, as we'll see what happened with Satyajit. So because of the Syamantaka jewel, there was a misunderstanding between King Satyajit and the Yadu dynasty. Later on, the matter was settled when Satyajit voluntarily offered Krishna his daughter, Satyabhama, along with the jewel Syamantaka. Not only was Satyabhama married to Krishna on account of the Syamantaka jewel, but Jambavati, the daughter of Jambavan, was also married to Krishna. So Krishna got two queens out of this pastime with the gift from the sun god to Satyajit. These two marriages took place before the appearance of Pradyumna, which was described in the last chapter. How King Satyajit offended the Yadu dynasty and how he later on came to his senses and offered his daughter and the Syamantaka jewel to Krishna is described as follows. Since he was a great devotee of the sun god, King Satyajit gradually entered into a very friendly relationship with him. The sun god was much pleased with him and delivered to him an exceptional jewel known as Syamantaka. When this jewel was worn by Satyajit in a locket around his neck, he appeared exactly like an imitation sun god. Putting on this jewel, he would enter the city of Dwarka, and people would think that the sun god had come into the city to see Krishna. They knew that Krishna, being the supreme personality of Godhead, was sometimes visited by the demigods. So, while Satyajit was visiting the city of Dwarka, all the inhabitants, except Krishna, took him to be the sun god himself. Although King Satyajit was known to everyone, he could not be recognized because of the dazzling effulgence of the Syamantaka jewel. A little bit of a rascaldom there, parading around Krishna's city, knowing that people were thinking he was the sun god. And Krishna knew he wasn't. Once, mistaking him to be the sun god, some of the important citizens of Dwarka immediately went to Krishna to inform him that the sun god had arrived to see him. At that time, Krishna was playing chess. One of the important residents of Dwarka spoke thus: "My dear Lord Narayan, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In your plenary portion of Narayan or Vishnu, you have 4 hands with different symbols: the conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. You are actually the owner of everything, but in spite of your being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, you have descended in Vrindavan to act as a child of Yasodamata, who sometimes used to tie you up with her ropes, and you are celebrated, therefore, by the name Damodar." So it appears that the residents of Dwarka were well aware of Krishna's childhood pastimes, and also relished them, but they themselves were absorbed in Lakshmi Narayan worship. They themselves, because the residents of Vrindavan did not relate to Krishna, that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They just loved him on a very personal platform, and to always see him in awe and majesty would have gotten in the way. So Krishna wanted to experience just intimate, loving relationships. Forget the God thing, although he was God. But here the residents of Dwarka, they're well aware of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of everything, the shelter of everyone, the master of everyone, including the demigods. They were well aware of his awe and majesty like that. but they were also relished his thinking of his pastimes. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Narayan, Godhead, as accepted by the citizens of Dwarka, was later on confirmed by the great Mayavadi philosophical leader Shankaracharya. By accepting the Lord as impersonal, he did not reject the Lord's personal form. He meant that everything which has form in the material world is subjected to creation, maintenance, and annihilation. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, does not have a material form subjected to these limitations. In order to convince the less intelligent class of men who take Krishna to be an ordinary human being, Shankaracharya therefore said that God is impersonal. This impersonality meant that he is not a person of this material condition. He is a transcendental personality without a material body. So here Prabhupada is explaining and clarifying the teachings of Shankaracharya. His mission was to distinguish Krishna from being mistaken as an ordinary human being. And the way he did it at the time was to say that the absolute truth is impersonal. It's similar to what Buddha's mission was to stop misuse of the Vedic scriptures. In the Vedic scriptures there are prescriptions for animal sacrifice, but people were misusing that, and they were just eating meat, basically. And to stop the abuse of the scriptures, Lord Buddha, he was very powerful because he was an incarnation of Krishna, and he was able to capture people's attention, to stop even referring to the Vedas at all. Don't even pay attention to the Vedas. That just follow me, and you will reach perfection. You just follow me. Forget the Vedas, because they were misusing the Vedas. So he had to steer them away from the Vedas. So similarly, Shankaracharya, from what Prabhupada's describing here, is he had to steer people away from thinking of God as a person, because they were considering him to be like an ordinary person. So he did that by preaching impersonal. The absolute truth is not a person. Just like Buddha said, the truth is not found in the Vedas. Shankaracharya, the truth is not a person, just to stop the abuse and the misuse in the name of the Vedas and in the name of teaching about personality of Godhead and then doing all kinds of nonsense. So what Prabhupada is saying here, that when Shankaracharya says the absolute truth is impersonal, what he's saying, he's not a material person. And also to realize the Lord's impersonal feature, which he does have, is the first step in approaching the Lord, but not to get stuck there. So then Krishna comes, or Lord Chaitanya comes, to take people to the next step, which is the actual love of Godhead, actual realization of the personality of Godhead. Let me read that paragraph again. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, as accepted by the citizens of Dwarka, was later on confirmed by the great Mayavadi philosophical leader Shankaracharya. By accepting the Lord as impersonal, he did not reject the Lord's personal form. That's that intermediate step. By accepting his impersonal feature. He meant that everything which has form in the material world is subjected to creation, maintenance, and annihilation, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, does not have a material form subjected to these limitations. In order to convince the less intelligent class of men who take Krishna to be an ordinary human being, Sankaracharya therefore said that God is impersonal. And he is. He has an impersonal feature. But that was to prevent people, less intelligent people, from taking him to be an ordinary person, a material personality, a material body, material person. This impersonality means that he is not a person of this material condition. He is a transcendental personality without a material body. The citizens of Dwarka addressed Lord Krishna not only as Damodar, the one who was tied up by his mother's ropes of love, but also as Govinda, which indicates that Krishna is very affectionate to the cows and calves. And just to refer to their intimate connection with Krishna, they addressed him as Yadunandana. So they have their own personal, intimate connection with Krishna as members of the Yadu dynasty, but they also recognize and relish his pastimes and activities in Vrindavan. But their own particular personal mood is Yadus, Dwarka Leela. He is the son of Vasudeva, born in the Yadu dynasty. In this way, the citizens of Dwarka concluded that they were addressing Krishna as the supreme master of the whole universe. They addressed Krishna in many different ways, proud of being citizens of Dwarka who could see Krishna daily. When Satyajit was visiting the city of Dwarka, the citizens felt great pride to think that although Krishna was living in Dwarka like an ordinary human being, the demigods were coming to see him. Thus they informed Lord Krishna that the sun god, with his appealing bodily effulgence, was coming to see him. The citizens of Dwarka confirmed that the sun god's coming into Dwarka was not very wonderful, because people all over the universe were searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knew that he had appeared in the family of the Yadu dynasty and was living in Dwarka as one of the members of that family. Thus the citizens expressed their joy in this occasion. On hearing the statement of his citizens, the all-pervasive personality of Godhead Krishna simply smiled. Being pleased with the citizens of Dwarka, Krishna informed them that the person whom they described as the sun god was actually King Satyajit, who had come to visit Dwarka city to show off, to show his opulence in the form of the valuable jewel obtained from the sun god. Satyajit, however, did not come to see Krishna. He was instead overwhelmed by the jewel of Syamantaka. He installed the jewel in a temple to be worshipped by Brahmins he engaged for this purpose. This is an instance of a less intelligent person worshipping a material thing. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that less intelligent persons, in order to get immediate results from their fruitive activities, worship the demigods who are created within this universe. The word materialist means one concerned with gratification of the senses within this material world. Sense gratification is not the problem. We have senses, spiritual senses. The problem is to try to gratify them within the material world. That's the problem. Just like the Christians, they understand that it's not money that's the problem, it's love of money. That's the problem. Hare Krishna. Although Krishna later asked for the Syamantaka jewel, King Satyajit did not deliver it to him, but he installed the jewel for his own purposes of worship. And who would not worship that jewel? The Syamantaka jewel was so powerful that it was daily producing a large quantity of gold. A quantity of gold is counted by measurement called a bara. According to Vedic formulas, 1 bara is equal to 16 pounds of gold. 1 mound equals 82 pounds. The jewel was producing 170 pounds of gold every day. Besides that, it is learned from the Vedic literature that in whatever part of the world the jewel is worshipped, there is no possibility of famine. Not only that, but wherever the jewel is present, there is no possibility of anything inauspicious, such as pestilence or disease. Lord Krishna wanted to teach the world that the best of everything should be offered to the ruling chief of the country. King Ugrasena was the overlord of many dynasties and happened to be the grandfather of Krishna. And Krishna asked Satyajit to present the Syamantaka jewel to King Ugrasena. Krishna pleaded that the best should be offered to the king, but Satyajit, being a worshipper of the demigods, had become too materialistic, and instead of accepting the request of Krishna, thought it wise to worship the jewel in order to get 170 pounds of gold every day. Materialistic persons who can achieve such huge quantities of gold every day are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, therefore, in order to show special favor, Krishna takes away great accumulations of materialistic wealth from a person and thus makes him a great devotee. But Satyajit refused to abide by the order of Krishna and did not deliver the jewel to him. So we'll see what happens after this. No, I don't want to give my jewel to Krishna. I'm getting gold from this jewel. Krishna. There was one brahmachari, I remember, and he was in the ashram for a while. This was a long time ago. And he was leaving, and I said, "Why are you leaving? Don't go." And he said, he explained, he said, "Well, Krishna takes away your karma. You become free from all your karma." And he said, "I might have some good karma, like maybe I'm going to win the lottery. And if I join Krishna consciousness, then, Krishna takes my good karma away. I'm supposed to win the lottery." Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. He left. I have a funny feeling that he might have had more bad karma than good karma, and I don't think he won the lottery. he probably won something else. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.